I was muted. Yeah, so I think we can get started. Don't have a lot of topics today. We can maybe add one in later. So the first thing we have on here is service discovery in Ceph. I think Fredo, you added that in. Do you want to introduce that one? Put on there.
Yeah, so basically this comes as part of this pull request. Let me find it. Where's the chat? Yeah. As part of this pull request, we're adding some new endpoints for Prometheus, basically for service discovery. The idea is to be able to get the current configuration by using HTTP from outside. So this way you can use it for Ceph ADM or for other Prometheus, external Prometheus in the customer. And we get the same configuration for both cases. So here in this pull request, if you can see the changes, you'll see that we are adding a bunch of endpoints right now hard-coded in the code, the URLs, basically. And Ernesto from the dashboard team commented that it would be good at least to think about having something for service discovery at Ceph level. So this way we can publish our endpoints there, and it will be much easier for clients from inside the cluster to discover different services we're providing and where are they listening.
All right. Did you ever actually end up talking with them? Like details?
Yeah, he had quick chat with him to understand more. And to be honest, we didn't came like to a conclusion that discussion. But his idea was probably to have something, not sure, in the manager or other independent model, acting as a server service discovery. The problem with that you have also, yeah, I remember now. Yeah, in order to implement this kind of features in a good way, you need to have name resolution in the cluster. And right now, as far as I know, we are using IPs in Ceph ADM. Like for example, you publish right now in the endpoints, we publish IPs on ports, and this normally points to the active manager. What happens if there is failover and the new manager becomes the standby becomes the new manager and is running another machine? So this endpoint is not anymore valid, and because we are using hard-coded IPs. In order to implement this, well, you need names instead of IPs, and then to update the name resolution to the new active manager automatically. So it's more complicated.
Okay. And so until we have this proper name resolution stuff, can't have this sort of more generic feature.
Yeah. I don't know how we handle this for the other services like the Ingress, because in the Ingress we have something similar for high availability by using HA proxy, as far I know, but I don't know the details of how this is implemented right now for NFS and other services.
I know, I think they combined with Keep Alive to have like a virtual IP that everything can point to. I think that maybe that makes things easier.
And the virtual IP points to the active server somehow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like if you have one IP and you just have all the requests always go to that one, and then
Yeah.
HA proxy will handle everything else from there, where it should go and everything, what's up.
In that case, if we want to do something similar, we need to have a virtual IP for the node for the manager.
We basically need
in this
HA
case.
for the manager.
Yeah.
Which is something we had discussed doing a while back. Possibility of maybe doing that. But it never really sort of came in. There was no reason not to, I think. It was just, it's a lot of work. And so we didn't have a reason to prioritize it, I think.
Does the dashboard do anything? Dashboard lives inside the manager too, right?
Yeah.
Dashboard, I don't know. I think they are resolving this by some hack or some hard-coded stuff.
Okay.
If you do
As far as I
Ceph manager
remember.
services command, it'll tell you where the dashboard is, what IP it's sitting on. I'll post that. I don't know how this format's going to come up in the chat box.
Yeah, and we are
You can
using
see the
an
dashboard
IP.
has an IP. So I think if you move the active manager, the dashboard's IP also just changes.
So they update this value basically.
Yeah, because all the manager modules will restart, and so the dashboard is part of that. And then as part of its restart, it'll set this IP again.
Yeah.
So there's no HA sort of thing going on there, which I guess is another reason why it would be nice to have sort of a manager HA, is that maybe the dashboard can make use of some sort of virtual IP, so no one has to worry about that.
And I think that's also not related with that, but could also help to solve scalability issues we already have with the manager, just to do with the metrics reporting. As far as I know, they had some issues because the manager is not able to cope with so many metrics. If we can load balancing.
Yeah, as long as all of the managers know what the metrics are. That's one thing I'm really unsure about, is if I contacted a standby manager, like, does it actually know values for these metrics? If not,
Right now we have only redundancy in the manager at the manager level. We have active and standby, but we don't have load balancing.
You don't have like multiple active managers.
Yeah, for that you need multiple active managers. Yeah.
And then it gets complicated, and you have to make sure that they're consistent between them with what they know and everything. Like, so there's a whole like thing for getting the monitors to work like that. So that would be really hard to implement, I think, for the managers as well.
Yeah, especially when the owner model of manager is not isn't in the
nobody's
company
really working
anymore.
On that. Yeah. The last person to touch that stuff was Sage.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, it doesn't seem like we can really implement this sort of generic one right now. That's like a long-term project. That might be something that we aim for our release, maybe.
Yeah, it seems like
thing.
Needs a big effort, especially in the manager side, to have this HA support, and which seems more complicated using only IPs at our level because we don't have name resolution right now.
Yeah, we'd have to start with just the probably generic manager HA or something, and then we'd have to move on to this extra stuff with the double active ones, whatever. Well, I guess that's more for the metrics thing. That wouldn't be for what you're doing with service discovery. That could just use the virtual IP.
Yeah.
So we could do that, but again, that's right. It's a long-term thing, like for R.
Yeah.
Huh?
John, we can't hear you. If you are seeing something,
I said,
we can't
yep.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so that was just a yep. That was probably why it didn't sound like a word.
Okay.
Right. Sounds good. Yeah, so I guess to wrap that up, I guess in the meantime, we're probably just okay with doing things the way you're doing right now, using the this one endpoint here.
Yeah, at least it's better than having nothing, which is the current implementation.
Yeah, I still want to see if we can get Paul Kuzner to take a look at this. I'll have to see if I can get in contact with him. Other than that, I think the strategy in general is fine for now, and we maybe change it once we have more work on the manager done.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Next topic on, or do you have something else?
Nothing for my side. Thank you.
All right. Next topic we have in here is update on the Rook test failure. I assume this was your thing, Joseph?
Yeah. So, okay, this issue came up a while ago actually, and I remember when it first came up, I thought it was just like a Rados issue because it was the first occurrence of this happening. Turns out it's been happening a lot in the Rados suite. So Neha asked me to take another look, and what I've decided to do is just remove all the orchestrator commands being tested from the suite, and just basically remove the orchestrator from like this test suite and see if that still breaks. And the idea behind this is that the orchestrator isn't being maintained at the moment, so it's okay to remove it from the test suite because we can just assume it's failing.
This is the Rook manager module you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Make sure it wasn't just the generic orchestrator.
oh yeah, no. Just for the Rook test suite, like in the Ceph QA.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just that the idea is to remove that because it looks like that the error right now it's failing due to the Rook orchestrator being tested. So if we remove that, we might get a better idea of why this is failing. And I think it's just better to clean up the tests so that this doesn't happen in the future. But I'm just letting you know.
Okay. I do know there was a whole discussion with Travis about the future of Manager Rook and what was sort of going on there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're using it right now. But I guess if nobody's using it at the moment, then I guess we could remove it from testing. I mean, nobody's going to fix it if something's broken anyhow.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's okay for now.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just gonna do that and keep you updated, I guess, on this issue since it came up like a while ago. And it has to do with the orchestrator key. Yep. But that's it really.
All right, thanks. Okay, and we don't have it on here, but I thought maybe we could talk a little bit more about HANFS. Mike, did you have a chance to test with all three of those pull requests talking about last week?
I did actually, yeah. That the combination of all three worked out much better on this go. What I found is that the offline host detection is fairly quick when I unplug the network cable. However, detecting that the node has gone online again is fairly slow. That's again takes about 10 minutes. The other interesting thing about it is the NFS daemon was rescheduled. However, it took a bit longer than I was hoping. I think it was more in the time frame of about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But either case, I crossed the grace period for that. But when it did finally redeploy the NFS daemon, I had clients connected with in hard mode, just reading and writing to a file, and they were able to resume. It just took a little bit longer than one might hope, but I think all in all, it was like, the failover time was a few minutes, which is certainly better than what we were doing before. The other issue that I encountered is one of my MDSs was co-located on the same box that went down as the NFS, and that was not rescheduled. So I had to kind of manually work around that. I think so in a very small cluster, like 2-3 nodes, it kind of seems like we need to some of these other stateless services reschedule them as well, because there's definitely a dependency there between NFS and MDS. So.
All right. I mean, I think even at this point, with the work from that one pull request is supposed to move to NFS, I think if we just add the MDS to that list that it has, it would do that. And then we just have to also have it be checked for that offline host loop. So we'd reschedule all of those.
Right, correct, yeah. And to be clear, all of my testing was without the agent. When I've turned the agent on, I've had trouble with the agent reconnecting when the node comes back online. So I kind of just avoided that whole branch of the code.
Yeah, I don't think the agent would make it much faster because with that extra loop that for the host, I don't think the agent's gonna beat that in time. It helps faster with like the checking their daemons are down or anything, but that's really not what we care about in this case. It's really just host offline.
Right, exactly. So
yeah, I guess the question is, one, can we make it faster somehow? Think how we do that.
the more I was thinking about it, we're really playing with timeouts and polling, and I think the only way to do that is maybe implement a proper heartbeat, and that might have to come from a proper heartbeat, and that might have to, then we might need to use the agent or something like that.
Yeah, or you're saying the host sends like a thing every 20 seconds or whatever.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that could be good. It's just, it requires the agent being stable because if the agent fails, then we have to say all the hosts are offline. Agent off.
Yep. I think we have a ways to go with the agent stability, so probably not worth it right now.
Yeah, so I wanted to get this working without it because I don't want to backport the agent specific. I don't think it should go there.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess the other thing to be clear with this is using the timeout through async SSH. I don't think we have a Remoto-based solution, so do we want to approach the backport of async SSH to Pacific, or would we?
I wanted to see first if I could get a Remoto, because it's really just the one thing we need is just that keep alive on the SH request. Do something similar for Remoto. So I was going to see first if I could, if that's possible. Then only backport async SSH is like a last resort. If there's no way to do it with Remoto.
That's fair. Yeah.
Let's need to look at that.
It seems like it's introducing a new feature, but I guess it's not really an externally visible feature, since it's kind of.
Yeah. It wouldn't change anything from the outside to anyone, but it's still like it's sort of ingrained in there, so it's one of the things that's sort of difficult to backport.
That's right. Yep.
I like to avoid it if possible. And I'll have to check if we can do keep alive requests for Remoto. It lets us do something like that. If we can, then it's way easier.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. And then on the topic of your larger PR that has both there's the Ceph ADM agent changes mixed in with like the scheduler changes. We kind of want to split that into two PRs.
Yeah, that was originally written with the idea that it was necessary to have the agent changes for the offline host detection.
Yeah.
But we've sort of moved away from that now, so there's no need to have it as one thing. Honestly, the agent parts I think just get removed. I don't think we're going to need them, at least right now. Even if we do the host detection using the agent, it sounds like we're going to try to do this heartbeat strategy you were talking about, where it comes from the agent rather than the weird sort of way it was working there. I think I could just remove the agent parts from that and then just leave it as just rescheduled NFS daemons.
Okay. I think that'd be a good idea because it's a separate topic and it'll make the backport easier.
I don't want to have because we don't want the agent stuff in the backports.
Right. Yep.
All right. So it sounds like it's almost there. It's just a little bit slow, but it was able to reconnect eventually. Just not as fast as we'd like it to be.
Yeah, the initial test I did where it redeployed just the NFS daemon, it reconnected within like a minute or two, which of course exceeded the grace period, but it still worked out okay. The case with the MDS was much longer. I think it took like 5 minutes or more before it was able to reestablish. The clients were able to reestablish a connection, but in both instances, it did actually work out. The clients were kind of hung since they were mounted.
Yeah, just a little bit longer than we'd like it to take.
Right. Yep.
Well, the MDS one, at least, we could probably just add something similar for the MDS. We just remove them. It should be even easier. We don't have to fence anything for that, I don't think. I think we just have to move it. I had to check that, actually. But
Yeah, Michael, how was the MDS setup? Was it active standby? There were two active MDS daemons. What was the setup of the MDSs?
But it was a fairly small cluster. I think there were only like 3 nodes, and so I had one active and one standby.
Okay.
So, and that's why Ceph went offline because I lost one of them. So
Yeah, is it the one active one that I assume was on the host that went down?
I believe so. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the MDSs have inbuilt HA, so if you have multiple active MDSs, it should be quicker. So we could play around with what kind of setup we want for the MDSs in this case.
Yeah, maybe it's worth trying that actually. Is just if you just had, say you had like 3 active ones or something, and just have like one on each host. So that way, when the one active one goes down, it's still not a problem. Is that maybe a more realistic scenario for like for a big cluster? Worry about this.
It would be. Yeah, I think I took just the default settings from our vStart cluster, or maybe it's in the service spec, which I think defines 2 MDSs. So
Yeah, I guess we should just try that because again, that would be more proper test. At least if it works that way, we can maybe push off the MDS HA stuff and say anyone who's like very serious about this and has like a large cluster, they'll be okay.
yeah.
And we'll fix it for the tiny clusters. Sure.
Yep.
And then there's the other part of it, which was the thing with if you don't have enough hosts to reschedule them on. I know you were going to talk to Jeff Layton about like how that works and why we need all of them. That conversation ever happen?
It didn't. I had a separate conversation elsewhere. It has a lot, I believe, to do with the NFS protocol and maintaining consistency between the ranks. And so I don't think it's, so if we have, say, 2 NFS daemons, we need to bring back 2 of the differing ranks. So, so the NFS service can't continue with just one of them present.
Okay,
and
so we need to redeploy all of them.
Yeah, we have to do the redeploy, yeah. And if you watch the Grace DB, even when one of the ranks goes down, it's not reflected in the Grace DB because there's nothing actively manipulating that, because that's only during an add or join that are seen. So as far as the other NFS daemon is aware, their pair is still active, even though they're not. So.
Yeah. Is this something you think we should try to get in right now as well? Or is this something you tell you could also work around? If you had enough hosts to do it on, it should work.
Yeah, I think it's not convenient in a small cluster, but I think probably the best thing we could do is just try and reschedule and then do a health warning or something if we can. And or maybe consider fixing the port conflict issue so we can co-locate 2 ranks on the same server.
Yeah. I just want to see. Yeah, it's hard to do right now, but.
Right. But a quick solution would just be a warning, a health warning, that we were unable to reschedule.
All right, and we can probably get that in sort of soon, and just have that as sort of the solution for the time being. If you have enough hosts, it'll work, and you have, I guess, your MTS elsewhere. It'll almost work. Apparently, it's still a little bit slow. It needs to be like 30 seconds faster. And maybe we could see if there's any ways to do that. But I know, like, I'm trying to think of where all the time would come from. I'm thinking, like, worst case, it maybe takes, I don't know, like 40-something seconds to detect the host is offline. And then we have to redeploy. If you have to redeploy, like, multiple NFS daemons, maybe. Or I guess we only have to redeploy one because there's one host going offline. I'm trying to add up to how it gets to 1:30, or gets to 2 minutes, and see if there's anywhere we can save some time off.
Yeah, some of it in my case was just the slowness of the container to start. The hardware isn't, super performant. So,
Yeah.
And some of it was the waiting for the servlet, whatever it was doing, to come around and schedule.
It should be, I think the moving gets done as apply services, which is pretty fast. Oh, I guess if it needed to refresh, that would slow it down, yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if we can have it skip. Yeah, because refreshing, if there's a lot of hosts, it's going to have to do like a Ceph MLS on all of them. If it happens to need the refresh when we do that.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that could be sort of painful time-wise. But you can't move apply services before the refresh. That's tough.
Right.
Yeah, I would really be interested to see if we knew for sure it didn't need a daemon refresh or a device refresh or anything, and it was all good. If we could get it to happen within a minute 30. Lucy would narrow it down sort of what we need to be able to do. But yeah, that's tough. I hadn't even thought about that, the fact that the refresh would take so long that it doesn't matter how fast you do everything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that may have to be the role of the agent, because I think we need that refresh to detect things like port conflicts and other things down the road. So
Yeah. That's what because for the daemon refresh stuff that you
Right.
can't do. You would skip the device refresh for something like this. That
Sure.
wouldn't be a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
But you can't skip the daemon refresh if you're going to be moving demons around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess maybe we'll have to live with it right now. Say it's not 100% great, but
I think this is a really good first step, and we can just iterate from here. You know.
yeah, you'll probably have it up in like at least a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's if it has. I'll do all the refreshes. If you got like got fortunate with the timing, and then there didn't need to refresh anything, and detected the hosts in like the minimum time, I think it could still do it in like a minute or so. And then there's also the time it takes to deploy the actual NFS daemon. But
How do we detect right now when some host goes off?
there's a thread. It's a pull request that's open. There's a thread that just loops through, checks every 20 seconds.
Mhm.
And then in this case, you also this is there's a keep alive request. I think is it 21 seconds ago.
And how we detect that the host is offline? We try to SSH to the
Just
host,
tries SSH there. And what works is
with the timeout.
there's no timeout on it. The way it works is the SSH connection itself that we're using has a keep alive request on it. I think it's every 7 seconds right now. All right, let me try to link the pull request. You know what I'm talking about.
I remember this pull request you posted. You have like timeout of 7 seconds.
Yeah, it's 7 seconds and it's 3 of them.
Times. Yeah, 3 of them.
So that one does that. So if you have that pull request, then when the thing goes to check, at worst it'll hang for the 21 seconds. If like say like right before it went offline right before it sent the message. Where's the other one that actually does the and then that one actually loops through and checks the host. And so the combination of that one, the idea is that even in the worst case, it'll time out after 21 seconds, and then it checks every 20.
And I don't know how the agent works right now. So what's the idea behind the agent? The agent is something that is running in the node and sending some information back to the manager.
It handles all of the refresh stuff we were talking about, like it refreshes the devices, the daemons, and stuff on the host. So that stuff takes a really long time if you have a lot of hosts. It runs Ceph MLS, which is slow. It runs Ceph volume inventory, which is slow. If you have, say, like 50 hosts, then that's going to take forever.
Yeah.
And so every action we want to do in the server loop gets delayed because we're waiting for that. So you have the agent going, then it refreshes every 20 seconds. So the server loop itself will like never need to do that refresh. And so the server can always get immediately to whatever action it has to take. That's the idea.
So in deployments where Ceph agent is active, why just not introduce some heartbeats? I think Mike already mentioned this. So we can add some active heartbeat between the agent and the manager. So this way we detect from Ceph ADM automatically if some host goes down in very quick time.
I mean, that's what we want to do. This solution we're trying with right now is supposed to be for Pacific, which won't have the agent. And also the agent just isn't considered stable. So we don't want our offline host section to be reliant on like an unstable component.
Okay, so this is for Pacific and we don't have the agent.
We're trying to backward all these changes to Pacific.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah, we could potentially even remove the offline host watcher, this thread thing that's being implemented once the agent has heartbeats. And that could be more integrated in.
Yes, it should be faster. Okay.
Yeah, and that would handle the refresh stuff, and it would handle the offline host detection.
Yep.
So it would be good. Be able to do that all quicker.
Yeah. Okay.
Although we probably would still, for detecting it really fast, probably still would need some sort of loop. It wouldn't have to loop wouldn't have to check if the host is offline. It would have to check if it got a heartbeat in the last X seconds or something.
In general, yeah, you can do it either ways. It's really much easier to have like some periodic messages, heartbeats coming from the agents to the manager, and in the manager you just check if the agents haven't sent like heartbeat in the last X seconds. It's
That's what I'm saying. We'd have this sort of like the same way we have that offline host detection thread right now. We'd have like a heartbeat check thread detection.
Yeah.
So we could repurpose that thread to do that if the agent had a proper heartbeat and stuff, and we were confident in it.
Yep.
Yeah, that could be some future work.
Yeah. It's more for next releases.
Yeah. So I guess that's sort of where we are with HKNFS. It sort of works, but it's a little bit slow. If we ignore the MDS case, we're talking like 2 minutes to get it from an offline host back into a working state, assuming you have enough hosts to reschedule the NFS daemons on. That's like an okay state. That's better than we were a few weeks ago. So we'll see if we can backport those things, and then we'll have like a decent solution in Pacific, and then we can try to work on like a faster one over the course of
maybe for MDS. I don't know if there are some parameters you can tweak to have this failover.
We could just do it the same with the NFS one, I think, and then it would sort of be all right, I think, or we just reschedule them like that. And what the NFS ones are, because right now we're not moving them at all. Like that's part of the problem is we're relying on basically the standby MDS to come up after the active one goes down, which seems like it takes a while. So
yeah, that was what I was saying, that maybe there is some parameters to configure at MDS level to make this faster.
Like how fast it goes to the standby one, if it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I have to ask someone on the CephFS team.
Yeah, somebody from CephFS to see how this redundancy works.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, I think we're. What?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the CephFS team, so like I work with the CephFS team. So yeah, so maybe setting it as active standby should help, and there are other config settings to lower the failover, so we can look at that, figure out what the default settings are. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So and yeah, we could also think about having multiple active MDSs, and whatever makes sense. So all this is targeted for Pacific, right? And for the OpenStack use case, is that what you're?
Yes, all that we have now. So basically, the 2 minute, again, slightly slow, not quite what we wanted, but 2 minute failover for AHA on an offline host. That's what we're gonna try to get in the Pacific.
Yeah. Okay. And we don't need ADM agent for Pacific, right?
No, not for Pacific.
Yeah. And what was the port conflict issue that you guys were talking about?
To co-locate NFS daemons, we have to make sure they don't use the same port. And if we were able to do that, we could then co-locate them, which means this problem where you don't have enough hosts to reschedule the NFS daemons would go away, because we could just co-locate them if we needed to.
Oh, you mean daemons belonging to the same cluster? Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, if you have two NFS daemons, they use the same port. We can't put them on the same host right now. Which means that we're limited. So say if you have your setup with 3 NFS daemons, and we want to reschedule all of them so that say if one of them goes offline, one of the hosts goes offline. But if you only have 3 hosts, we're allowed to put them on based on the placement. We can't do anything because we can't put them on the same host, and there's nowhere else to put them. So if we fix that so that the port conflict doesn't happen anymore, then we could just say like put like 2 of them on one host and 1 of them on the third one, and then we could still sort of have the service stay up even if there's not enough hosts for 1 per each.
Okay. Makes sense.
But yeah, right now that's future work. If we want to do in the short term, we're just going to probably stick with what we have here. It works fairly well. It's just not as fast as we want because the NFS grace period's really low. Hard to meet that sometimes, but in the future maybe we can. But for now, I think this might be the best we can sort of do.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
All right. That was the last topic I had in mind. Does anyone have anything else you want to talk about here? No? In that case, we can end here, and I will see you all next week. So, bye.
Great. See you next week.